They called themselves gods, but they bled like men. The pharaohs of old sat on thrones of gold, wrapped in linen and lies, ruling over a land where blood was sacred, so sacred they refused to mix it with outsiders. Brother married sister, father bred daughter, mother bore son from her own kin, each generation more deformed, more fragile, more cursed. It was not devotion, it was decay dressed as divinity. In the temples, they whispered prayers with hollow mouths, while in the birthing chambers, midwives screamed into the linen as monsters emerged from royal wombs. The rituals were unbreakable. The book of divine continuity, bound in crocodile hide and human bone, decreed that the blood of gods must remain untainted. Any heir who disobeyed the sacred order would face damnation not just in the afterlife, but in every generation that followed. The royal court obeyed not out of faith, but out of fear. Every time someone resisted, they disappeared. Every time someone asked questions, their name was chiseled off every wall. And so the cycle continued, one royal tomb sealing another. The people below, the commoners, they knew. They saw the misshapen children carried under veils, the sudden silences at court, the funerals with no names spoken. They dared not speak. The sun scorched just as easily as the pharaoh's wrath. To accuse the bloodline was to be burned alive or buried under the sands. When Prince Amenekh was born, the scribes announced a miracle: healthy limbs, bright eyes, a strong cry. His mother, however, died during birth. His sister Satara was born 3 years earlier, delicate, ghost pale, her veins too close to the skin, her bones like dried papyrus. The priests rejoiced. 2 heirs, 2 sacred vessels. A perfect match. They were raised together, not just as kin, but as intended lovers. From infancy they were taught their destiny to unite, to rule, to preserve what the gods commanded. But even as a child, Amenekh watched the other siblings buried too soon. Cousins who screamed into nothingness, uncles who drank mercury to dull the madness. He saw what the blood did. It did not bless, it did not protect, it consumed. Still, the priests spoke of order, of tradition, of eternity. And so the drums beat on, echoing through the stone halls as Amenekh's heart began to whisper rebellion. He had seen enough, he had counted the graves. And he understood something had to end or everything would. At 13, Amenekh no longer believed in miracles. He watched Satara cough blood into silk cloths, her eyes dark with fatigue, her skin colder each day. The court healers called it divine imbalance. The priests called it a test. But Amenekh knew what it was: poisoned lineage slowly unraveling from within. He had seen it before. His half-brother married their sister as tradition demanded. Their child was born without eyelids, its cries silenced with a silk ribbon before dawn. The mother took her life. The brother walked into the Nile and never came back. Amenekh was told to accept it, to understand that pain was the price of divine legacy. But something inside him cracked. In the dead of night he searched the palace catacombs, dust chambers buried beneath centuries of forgotten heresies. He found forbidden scrolls wrapped in the skins of executed scribes, not texts of gods, but of medicine, anatomy, lineage, and illness. He read until his fingers bled from unrolling brittle parchment. He found diagrams of bone deformities, sketches of twisted limbs, and warnings centuries old about what happened when blood remained trapped within itself. The truth wasn't hidden by accident, it was erased deliberately. Every line of ink was a scream from the past, a voice begging to be heard. But no one dared speak it aloud. Not here, not where statues watched and walls listened. His hands shook, not from fear, but fury. The high priests declared Satara would be his bride by the next full moon. The people clapped, the scribes wept with joy. Amenekh said nothing. His eyes betrayed no reaction, but inside, his mind raced, with 1,000 truths he was never meant to know. His tutor, an old man from distant lands, noticed the change in him. When Amenekh confided the truth, the man warned him to stay silent. The next morning his body was found hanging from the ceiling of the royal library, throat slit, scrolls burned at his feet. That day Amenekh stopped trusting anyone. He no longer looked to the gods for answers. He looked inward, at the blood running in his own veins, and knew it was poisoned. Each hour Satara grew weaker. Amenekh stopped eating. He began hearing whispers in his sleep, his own voice, older, colder, telling him the crown would kill them both. And when he looked into the polished obsidian mirror, he no longer saw a prince. He saw a curse. The night air turned heavy as Amenekh vanished into the depths beneath the temple of Anubis, where the walls were damped with centuries of rot and silence. He was no longer seeking escape. He was seeking an end. Within the chamber he uncovered the writings of a banished priest who once dared to question the divine lineage. The truth was not whispered. It was carved with rage. The bloodline wasn't sacred. It was strategic. Centuries ago, Pharaoh Neferemhotep crafted the myth of divine blood to lock power into the hands of his kin, ensuring control even as his family rotted from within. What followed was a chain of blind obedience and selective memory, all wrapped in gold and offered to gods who never answered. Amenekh returned to the palace changed, pale, silent, his eyes hollow with knowledge. During the Feast of Union, when Priests chanted hymns and nobles poured wine over idols. He stood before them and broke the silence. He spoke not in riddles, but in plain truth. Their gods were lies, their rituals were madness. Their bloodline was a cage. The hall erupted. His father screamed. His sister fainted. The crowd descended into chaos. The pharaoh's voice cut through the noise, condemning his son to death for heresy and treason that night. Amenekh and Satera fled the palace through the forgotten crypts of dead queens, stepping over shattered urns and broken names. Satera was barely conscious, her breath shallow, her body frail, but Amenekh held her up. They wandered into the desert under a dead sky, the stars hiding behind clouds as if ashamed to witness what had been done in their name. Guided by a disfigured stargazer who once served the court, and was cast out for refusing to marry his niece, they reached the cliffs above the Nile. Amenekh's strength failed. His lungs rattled. He could go no farther. With shaking hands, he carved the truth into stone tablets and handed them to the stargazer. These were not to save him but to save history from forgetting. As Satara wept beside him, he made her promise to live a life free from chains, free from myths. He gave her everything, his truth, his defiance, his final breath, and as the winds howled over the cliffs, he remained seated, watching the horizon. He had broken the ritual. He had ended the curse. Even if the gods returned, they would find no more children to feed on. Years passed, and the name Amenekh dissolved into sand. The court declared him a traitor, struck his image from every wall, and sealed records behind curses and wax. But what the scribes erased, whispers kept alive. Far from the crumbling temples, Satara lived hidden under a false name in a remote village. Far from the reach of royal blood, she grew stronger. She never married. Her hands learned healing. Her voice spoke of choice, and her memories stayed locked behind her eyes, unreachable to all but dreams. The dynasty did not survive him. Within a decade, the royal bloodline collapsed. Pharaoh Makidip died in madness, clawing at invisible serpents. The priests perished in a famine that swept through the capital. Their temples abandoned, their scrolls soaked in rain and rot. No heir was crowned. The kingdom splintered. Tombs were looted. Sacred names lost their meaning. Generations later, archaeologists unearthed a sealed chamber deep beneath the cliffs of the Nile. Inside were 2 stone tablets inscribed in a mix of royal script and something older, something forbidden. The carving spoke of lies passed as faith, of a prince who rejected gods made by men. The scholars, unsettled, debated the discovery's meaning. Officially, it was declared a myth, a symbolic tale of resistance. Unofficially, the tablets vanished into private collections. The truth was never meant to be shared, but legends resurfaced, carried by wind and memory. Stories of a young royal who defied his fate, of a sister saved from a sacred death, of a kingdom that fed on its own children until one broke the chain. These stories were never taught in schools. They spread in whispers, in songs without names, in carvings made by hands that remembered even when history did not. One artifact remains of cracked relief depicting a boy and a girl standing side by side, their faces eroded but still strangely alive. Some say the boy has no eyes, others claim his mouth is stitched. No scholar can confirm its origin. Most dismiss it as outsider art, unworthy of mention in official archives. Or when the room is silent and the torchlight flickers, some swear they hear a voice near the relief, not in Egyptian, but something older saying only one phrase: "Do not marry the mirror." And in that moment, history shut us not from what it remembers, but from what it tried so hard to forget.